Hello, guys. This is Devin Welch, and welcome back to my podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Rousseau's essay on Has the Restoration of Sciences and Arts Contributed to the Purification of the Morals? Rousseau published this in an essay contest that he ended up winning, and it led him to become well known as a famous philosopher in the French community. And his answer to this question was that humanity was initially good, but then the advancements in sciences and arts essentially made people wicked or morally worse, being one of the first anti-enlightenment passages. He uses for evidence that after philosophy and the arts flourished, that ancient Egypt fell. Similarly, that ancient Greece was founded on the notion of heroic virtue. But then as arts and sciences progressed, it became a society based on luxury and leisure, going from a noble society to one that's more corrupted by wealth. And he claims that the arts and sciences were born from vices, saying that astronomy was born from superstition, eloquence from ambition, hate, flattery, and falsehood. Geometry was from avarice, physics from vain curiosity, and even moral philosophy, ironically what Rousseau was himself, came from human pride. And later on he continues his attack on the science field as Rousseau articulates how they fail to contribute anything positively to morality, and that they take time from activities that are truly important, such as spending time with friends and helping the unfortunate and having pride for your country, and instead using them on trying to prove these theories. And that philosophical and scientific knowledge of subjects such as relationships of the mind to God, orbit of the planets, and physical laws that govern particles fail to generally provide any guidance on making people better people, and instead just creating a false sense of need for luxury. So science becomes a means for making our lives easier and more morally pleasurable, but not better morally. And Rousseau also believes that the basis of all comes from wanting to be superior to others. And with my personal position, I obviously do enjoy some of the advances that art and science have created in society, as I would not be able to make a video like this if I didn't have iPhones, which comes from advancements in science. But I do agree that, at least coming from a morality perspective, that the arts and sciences in general have made morality a lot worse, with probably one of the biggest examples being the advances of weaponry over time leading to serious violence, with the Middle Ages solely being a violent period with many deaths, but them being for more simple things like a spear and a sword. But with more advances, people are able to kill more, and also killing from further and further away, leading to less of a moral issue with you not being able to do it as close. Which the first example being the introduction of gunpowder, and then which was the first almost ranged one that was super lethal beyond the arrow, and then with more dangerous weapons coming later on with time, such as the 20th century bringing the machine gun, mustard gas, and nuclear bomb, especially being used to increase kills without having to do as much physical strength combat, meaning that no matter how weak or strong you are, you can easily be as much of a killer. And particularly with the nuclear bomb, the fact that you can just sit peacefully in a plane and just kill millions of people casually is just almost dehumanizes death, which goes against the counter argument that people may use, saying that these new weapons may be a humane way to die than spears. But I feel the dehumanization of it makes it still much worse. And another serious issue with science coming is the start of eugenics, and specifically scientific racism. And one of the first examples comes with the Black Death in Europe, where many of people were obviously killed by the plague, but as a scapegoat, the population blamed the Jewish population for their perceived idea of otherness compared to the general Christian world around Europe at the time. So they saw traditional Jewish traditions as unholy, and suspecting that they were the reason why God punished them by giving them the bubonic plague. And then that European eugenics come from an incorrect understanding of Mendelian genetics and an idea that disorders and undesirable traits such as unintelligence and more odd social behaviors are passed down genetically in a simple manner, when in reality we clearly know that it's not like that and comes from many different things, both from a genetics standpoint and an environmental social standpoint, and that these ideas were used to largely justify European colonization and imperialism, with the idea that these mostly African and Asian countries were inferior to European culture and it needed white saviors to come and take care of them and civilize these people, and while exploiting the resources and leading to the economic disparity between some of these colonies we see today. And these were also used to justify the Atlantic slave trade for the same reason, essentially taking this form of scientific racism and saying that African American, or I guess Africans, were in general not allowed to have like basic rights because of their race. And then at the most major instance of this comes during World War II and the Holocaust, with the German goal of cleansing the German population, leading to the extermination of the Jewish class along with people with disabilities, the Roma, and people of LGBT identities, with them all being killed, with the idea that it would help make Germany a more perfect country, because they thought it would like cure these these so-called disabilities, when we know it does not work like that. And with the alt, the most prominent example of alt being used to go against the purification of morals comes with propaganda, and in general just alt being used to manipulate people. While the biggest example of propaganda comes during the World Wars, both by the Allied forces in order to recruit people, such as the famous picture of Uncle Sam pointing a finger with "I want you in the U.S. military" said in all caps, and the equally famous ones made by dictators such as Hitler, Mussolini to keep their rule over countries by censoring media that goes against it. In some ways, even under additional names, propaganda has existed throughout history. The term originally came from the European Renaissance in 1622, when Pope Gregory XV made a commission with the main task of spreading faith and regulating church affairs around Europe and training for Catholic Church missionary events, sending a group of people to learn how to do this propaganda and spread it to increase, and that it was also one of the main weapons used in the Atlantic Revolution, urging citizens to go towards independence in both the likes of Thomas Paine in the American Revolution and in the French Revolution. Voltaire and Rousseau, ironic the topic of the question at the start of this podcast, using writing to organize opinions of the public against the French king. The main problem with propaganda, if you don't already see it, is the fact that it can manipulate people into believing information potentially false, and these views becoming the only thing they see, leading to many of with the World War II example, many of the German populations just freely believing Hitler's hate speech by the sheer amount of media they saw agreeing with it. Even if there is some propaganda you believe to go with messages that you believe in, there's still seriously manipulation involved, making a twisted form of alt used in morally wrong ways throughout history. The money and overall greed of alt is another fact that is a major con of it, with some of the world's most famous paintings being bought by private collectors that could sell people's former works for millions of dollars, making the piece more of a form of currency than artistic expression. One of the most famous paintings on earth, being Van Gogh's The Starry Night, is owned by a private collection and could be completely restricted from view if its owners at the Museum of Art decided to. Even contemporary things in our society now, like the cost of a ticket to a Taylor Swift concert being almost $1,000, shows the accessibility of modern art, with greed's involvement with people buying tickets as to upcharge them for triple the price online known to demand. Is there a major solution to this, as someone may say? Just saying the issue is capitalism itself? Even if that is true and there's no real solution besides this destroying the entire capitalist system and restarting anew, it's still a lot to be said when a major element of culture has been completely corrupted by greed. In conclusion, while the advancements of science and all have certainly done some great things in society, and I would be lying if I said I'm not happy to exist in some aspects, as I said before, there also are serious issues that come with the advancements that negatively affect society even to this day, from war weapons that can and have killed millions in mere seconds, with many deaths coming from civilians that had no involvement in the conflict, forms of pseudoscience being used to oppress minorities to this day with eugenics, all being twisted to manipulate people's minds to believe disturbingly false information leading to deaths and persecutions of groups, and the restriction of all being an important part of culture being locked up by greed and high expenses shows that overall, I think the growth and evolution of arts and science does not contribute to the purifications of morals and has potentially done the opposite. Thank you, and I will see you in the next episode.